Have you ever wondered why, no matter how strong you try to be, there is still a silent place inside you that hurts? And what would happen if you finally became untouchable instead of pretending to be? Maybe you have built walls. Maybe you have armored yourself with stoicism, laughter, sarcasm, or even kindness. Maybe you have told yourself, "I don't care anymore." And yet, the smallest wound, the tiniest rejection, still echoes painfully in the depths of your chest when no one is looking. Why? Because pretending to be strong is not the same as becoming unbreakable. Carl Jung and Arthur Schopenhauer both understood a truth that most people never dare to face. The more you resist pain, the more power it has over you. The more you avoid it, the deeper it seeps into the cracks of your psyche, growing like a silent poison. Strength that is merely a performance eventually shatters under real pressure. True immunity is not built by resistance. It is built by integration. It is not about building higher walls around your heart. It is about descending into the darkest chambers of your mind, meeting every hidden fear and scar, and becoming so familiar with yourself that no one can use you against you ever again. Schopenhauer warned that avoidance only deepens suffering. Jung went further, teaching that the very parts of yourself you refuse to face are the ones that control you the most. Emotional invincibility, the kind that is unshakable yet alive, does not come from pretending nothing touches you. It comes from the terrifying courage to feel everything, to confront everything, and still remain centered, unmoved by the chaos of others. Most people believe that emotional strength means not feeling. They believe it means suppressing tears, hiding anger, laughing off betrayal. But this is not strength. It is fear disguised as strength. And fear, when buried, eventually erupts. If you want to become truly untouchable, not cold, not numb, but sovereign, you must stop fighting your pain like an enemy. You must make it your greatest teacher. And here lies the deeper question. Why does it hurt so much in the first place? Why, despite everything you do, does a careless word, a forgotten text, a backhanded compliment have the power to wound you? The answer is not out there in the world. The answer is inside you, buried deeper than you think. But where exactly did this vulnerability begin? Why do even the smallest betrayals, rejections, or criticisms hurt so much, even when we try to pretend they don't? The real reason lies hidden in a place most people never dare to explore. Pain from the outside only wounds you if it touches something wounded inside you. That is the brutal secret. A stranger's insult rolls off your back, but a loved one's coldness can leave a scar that aches for years. Why? Because the external world only stings when it finds an open nerve inside of you, a wound that was never fully healed, never fully acknowledged. Most people spend their lives trying to control the outside world to avoid pain. They chase approval, manipulate perceptions, avoid difficult conversations. But all of this effort is useless if the real battlefield is inside you. Every betrayal, every criticism, every rejection you experience is not just an isolated event. It is a mirror. It reflects the unresolved business buried deep within your unconscious. Painful moments are not random acts of cruelty from the universe. They are activations, triggers. They awaken unfinished chapters of your story that you tried to leave behind but never really closed. Think about it. Why does one person crumble after being criticized while another shrugs it off? Why does one heartbreak destroy a person's sense of worth while another grows stronger from it? The difference is not the cruelty of the world. It is the unhealed places inside the individual. Life presses exactly where you are weakest. Not because the world is malicious, but because your wounds seek resolution, often without your permission. Carl Jung taught that our reactions reveal the parts of ourselves that are still fragmented, still unconscious. When someone's words make your blood boil or your heart shatter, it's not just about what they said. It's about what they touched inside you, something unfinished, something fragile, something hidden. And here lies the dangerous trap. Most people blame the outside world for their pain. They say, if only they respected me, if only they loved me, if only they stayed loyal. But the truth is harsh. If your inner wounds were fully healed, no betrayal, no criticism, no rejection could control you. You might still feel pain, but it would not dismantle you. You would remain whole, steady, and untouchable. But if external events are just triggers, not the true cause of your suffering, then where does the real battlefield lie? Where is the hidden machinery that turns ordinary life into agony? The answer, as Jung revealed, is hidden deeper than most people ever dare to look. It is not out there, not in others, not even in the events themselves. It is hidden deep within the unconscious, quietly shaping every emotion, every reaction, every wound. If something is awakening in you as you listen, you're already part of the few. Subscribe now and stay close to the journey. Thank you for being here. Carl Jung once wrote, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate." Few words are more terrifying or more liberating. What you think is bad luck, betrayal, endless heartbreak, sudden rage, or inexplicable sadness is often not caused by the world outside you. It is orchestrated from within, by the unseen forces buried in your unconscious mind. The unconscious is not simply a storage room for forgotten memories. It is an active, living part of you. It shapes your desires, fears, habits, even the type of people you are drawn to or repelled by. And unless you learn to confront it, you will spend your life running in circles, attracting pain, repeating patterns, calling it destiny, never realizing that you are following a map written by your own hidden wounds. Jung believed that emotional pain is the language the unconscious uses to get your attention. It is not a punishment. It is not random cruelty. It is a signal. When betrayal cuts too deeply, when criticism shatters you more than it should, when small failures spiral you into despair, that is not the outside world crushing you. That is the unconscious, pounding at the walls of your carefully built self-image, demanding to be seen. The unconscious holds all the parts of you that were pushed away because they were too painful, too complicated, or too shameful to deal with when they first appeared. Every childhood humiliation you never processed. Every time you were told to be strong when you wanted to cry. Every secret fear you buried to appear brave. They did not disappear. They waited, silent, patient, powerful. And when life presses against them, when someone unknowingly touches those raw nerves, the unconscious floods your system with old emotions. Fear disguised as anger, sadness disguised as numbness, guilt disguised as rage. You think you are reacting to the moment, but you are really reacting to a ghost from years ago. But here is the rare truth most will never tell you. The unconscious is not your enemy. It only becomes dangerous when ignored. It only destroys when abandoned. If you have the courage to face it, to truly see the wounds instead of hiding from them, you begin to reclaim your power, piece by piece. Pain, then, is not the destroyer. It is the revealer. And until you choose to look inward and recognize the secret battle happening within, no amount of external success, approval, or love will ever fill the void. But if the unconscious holds the keys to your pain, what does it actually mean to heal? Is it about building thicker armor, suppressing emotions more effectively? Or is there a deeper, more radical transformation waiting just beyond the walls you have built? When life hurts us, our instinct is to defend, to build walls, to harden our hearts, to convince ourselves that we do not care, that we are invulnerable. It feels logical. If others cannot reach the deepest parts of us, then surely they cannot hurt us anymore. But Jung saw something far more dangerous hidden behind this strategy. The armor we build to protect ourselves eventually becomes the prison that suffocates us. Emotional walls are not shields, they are tombs. They do not just keep others out, they keep your own soul locked inside. Every time you deny a wound, repress a feeling, or harden yourself against life, you are not becoming stronger. You are becoming smaller, less flexible, less alive, more brittle, and paradoxically, easier to shatter. This is why so many people who seem tough fall apart under real pressure. Their strength was a facade, a desperate attempt to outrun pain instead of facing it. And sooner or later, life applies enough force to crack that armor wide open, revealing the terrified, unhealed self hiding underneath. Jung taught that real strength is not the absence of vulnerability, it is the integration of it. To integrate means to welcome back the parts of yourself you have banished. Your sadness, your anger, your fear, your longing, not as enemies to be defeated, but as essential pieces of who you are. Only by embracing these aspects consciously can you stop being ruled by them unconsciously. Integration is not surrendering to weakness. It is forging a self so complete, so authentic, that no external wound can destabilize it. When you know your own darkness, no one else's darkness can control you. When you accept your own flaws, criticism loses its teeth. When you are at peace with your own vulnerability, betrayal cannot destroy your sense of worth. This is the paradox. What you most fear facing inside yourself is the exact thing that will set you free. Healing is not about building thicker armor. It is about no longer needing armor at all. Because when you own every part of yourself, there are no hidden levers for others to pull, no secret wounds for them to weaponize. But how do you actually begin this transformation? How do you stop running from pain and start using it as the forge that remakes you into something unbreakable? The answer is not found in theory. It is found in a brutal, personal confrontation the moment you stop seeing pain as an enemy and start recognizing it as your greatest ally. And once you see this shift, once you taste the possibility that every scar could become a source of new strength, a new question arises. How do you walk through the fire without being consumed? Pain is not the punishment we were taught to fear. It is the raw material of transformation, the catalyst that turns fragile illusions into solid truth. Carl Jung understood something most people still refuse to accept. Pain is not your enemy. Pain is your unconscious speaking to you in the only language it knows. Every pang of rejection, every wave of despair, every sharp edge of anger, these are not random tortures. They are precise signals from within, pointing directly at the parts of yourself that need to be reclaimed. Pain does not destroy you. Denying pain destroys you. Jung taught that suffering is the soul's way of demanding growth. When you experience depression, it is not because you are broken, it is because something within you is refusing to die and be reborn. When you feel anxiety, it is not proof of weakness. It is the energy of your real self struggling against the lies you have been forced to live. When you rage, it is not evidence that you are losing control. It is a signal that you have betrayed your own boundaries too many times. But listen carefully. Pain, left unexamined, becomes poison. It festers, turns into bitterness, cynicism, and despair. The pain you refuse to face will find ways to control you from the shadows, sabotaging your relationships, your dreams, your peace of mind. This is why so many people live trapped in patterns they do not understand, repeating the same heartbreaks, the same failures, the same regrets. The difference between those who are broken by life and those who are strengthened by it is not luck. It is the choice to sit with suffering instead of fleeing from it. To ask, what are you trying to show me? Where have I abandoned myself? Where have I been asleep? Every piece of darkness you integrate becomes new light inside you. Every wound you heal consciously becomes a new source of power. Your pain is not meant to shrink you into something smaller. It is meant to carve out space inside you for something greater to emerge. But this path is not linear. Healing is not a straight road upward. It is more like a spiral, circles of progress and setbacks, breakthroughs and breakdowns. It requires patience, grit, and above all, brutal honesty with yourself, because every time you run from pain, you surrender a piece of your freedom, and every time you face it, you take a piece back. And yet, even knowing this, even feeling the first flicker of transformation, the journey ahead is far more brutal than anyone admits. Because to truly rebuild yourself, you must first be willing to let the old self collapse. And when that collapse begins, when everything you thought you were starts to fall apart, you will face the most terrifying trial of all. Will you cling to your former life? Or will you walk through the fire and be reborn? There comes a moment on the path when something terrifying happens. You no longer recognize yourself. The strategies you used to survive, the masks, the compromises, the constant search for approval begin to disintegrate. You are standing at the edge of a great fire, and to move forward, you must throw everything you thought you were into the flames. This is individuation, Jung's ultimate goal for human development, not perfection, but wholeness. Not being liked by everyone, but becoming so fully yourself that you can no longer be owned by anyone or anything. Individuation demands destruction before it grants creation. The fire is brutal. It burns away the attachments you thought you needed. It consumes the false identities you clung to for safety. It demands that you walk through loneliness, doubt, grief, and raw uncertainty without turning back. You will be tempted to rebuild the old self, to grasp for the familiar pain. But if you do, you will only recreate the same prison you fought to escape. Jung warned that individuation is not for the faint of heart. Most people will never complete it. They will settle for partial awakenings, comfortable illusions, acceptable mediocrity. But if you have come this far, if you have glimpsed even a sliver of your real strength, you cannot go back. You can only move forward, into the fire. It is not enough to understand yourself intellectually. You must experience your own dismantling. You must watch your old stories burn without rescuing them. You must feel the terror of emptiness without trying to fill it. Only then will something new emerge from the ashes, not a better mask, but a truer existence. If you understand that real freedom always has a cost, it costs your illusions. It costs your dependency on validation. It costs the comfort of being just another well-behaved piece of society's machinery. But what you gain is priceless. You become sovereign. You become someone who cannot be manipulated by fear, bribed by praise, or shattered by rejection. And this is why the fire of individuation is so sacred. It strips you down to what is essential. It reveals the indestructible core that no betrayal, no failure, no loss can ever touch. Once you have touched this core, you are no longer at the mercy of life. You walk through chaos untouched because you no longer derive your existence from anything outside yourself. But beware. Even if you endure the fire, even if you find your core, the path does not become easier. In fact, the next trial is even harder, because the stronger you become, the more alone you will stand. The real question is, will you have the strength to face the silence that comes after the fire? After the fire has stripped away the illusions, after the false self has crumbled into ashes, you find yourself standing in a new and unfamiliar landscape. Profound solitude. It is not the comfortable loneliness of a quiet afternoon or a temporary distance from others. It is a cavernous silence that echoes inside your soul. And it is here that most people falter. Because real strength isolates. The more authentic you become, the less relatable you are to a world addicted to masks. When you stop needing approval, you stop playing the games that others live for. Conversations that once thrilled you seem hollow. Relationships built on mutual illusions dissolve. Invitations grow fewer. Compliments turn into suspicion. Some will even begin to resent you, sensing in your silence a kind of judgment they cannot tolerate. It is tempting to believe you did something wrong, to doubt the transformation, to think, maybe if I soften again, maybe if I play the game a little longer, I will be welcomed back. But the truth is brutal. You were never meant to belong to a world that demanded your self-betrayal in exchange for acceptance. Jung warned that individuation requires stepping away from the collective noise. True growth is a solitary process, not because others are your enemy, but because the deeper you go, the fewer people are willing or able to walk beside you. Most cling desperately to the familiar patterns you have now outgrown. Your very existence threatens them because it exposes a freedom they have denied themselves. Yet within this loneliness lies a rare and sacred opportunity. For the first time, you are not being defined by external forces. You are not living according to someone else's expectations. You are not bending yourself into shapes to fit into spaces that were never meant for you. In solitude, your soul begins to breathe again. In the absence of constant validation, you discover your own worth. In the stillness, you hear the voice that was drowned out by years of noise, the voice of the self, and it does not beg. It does not apologize, it does not seek approval. It simply exists, vast and untouchable. Loneliness is the final test. It separates those who are merely pretending to awaken from those who are truly willing to claim their real life. It is not a punishment, it is a rite of passage, a purification. But once you cross this desert of solitude, something extraordinary happens. You become dangerous in the best possible way, no longer manipulable, no longer desperate, no longer small. You no longer seek belonging at the cost of your soul. And once you reach that point, another question emerges, a question more powerful than all the others that came before. If you no longer fear being alone, what new kind of strength could awaken in you? What protects you once you have crossed the desert of loneliness? It is not force, it is not walls, it is not the cold armor so many build around their hearts to survive. The final shield, the only real protection you will ever need, is consciousness itself. Consciousness transforms everything it touches. When you become conscious of your wounds, they stop bleeding into your decisions. When you become conscious of your patterns, they lose their power to trap you. When you become conscious of your projections, you stop mistaking others for your own hidden fears. Jung taught that the self, once awakened, becomes an inner center of gravity. It is no longer tossed by every wave of rejection, every gust of betrayal, every storm of disappointment. You still feel, but you no longer drown. You still care, but you are no longer controlled. And here is the most disturbing and liberating truth. It is not pain that destroys you. It is unconsciousness. It is the pain you do not recognize, the wounds you do not face, the triggers you do not understand that sabotage your life from the shadows. Most people are not suffering because of what happens to them. They are suffering because of how little they understand about themselves. Every harsh word pierces like a dagger because it confirms a hidden fear. Every rejection crushes them because it echoes an unresolved wound. Every betrayal devastates them because it shatters a fragile illusion they never dared to question. But you are not like most people, not anymore. You are learning the alchemy of consciousness. You are turning pain into information, rejection into refinement, betrayal into clarity. Every experience, even the ones meant to break you, becomes raw material for your awakening. This is why true emotional immunity is never numbness. It is heightened sensitivity without chaos. It is feeling everything yet remaining anchored. It is walking through a storm without losing your footing. And here is the real secret no one tells you. When you stop needing others to validate your existence, you become terrifying to those who depend on external control. Your calm unsettles the manipulative. Your indifference exposes the petty. Your clarity blinds the deceivers. You become untouchable not because you resist harder, but because you see deeper. You respond not with defense, but with understanding. You do not block pain, you transmute it. And once you master this level of being, you begin to ask yourself a final, almost unbelievable question, one that few dare to even consider. If nothing outside of you can destabilize your peace anymore, what kind of life, what kind of power, what kind of freedom could truly be yours? Look back for a moment, not at the world, but at yourself. The person who began this journey was carrying invisible wounds, wounds that flinched at rejection, shrank at betrayal, recoiled at criticism, wounds that longed to be armored, hidden, protected at all costs. But something has shifted, even if you only feel it faintly. Because true strength is never something you chase. It is something that awakens when you stop running. Carl Jung showed us the map of the self, buried beneath layers of masks, shadows, projections, and fear. And the only way to find it is to walk straight into the places you were taught to avoid, into pain, into solitude, into the truth about who you really are, without illusions. And when you do, something extraordinary happens. You are no longer a hostage of the world, not because the world has become kinder, but because you have become whole. You are no longer defined by who loves you, who leaves you, who praises you, who betrays you. Their power fades, not because they change, but because you have changed. This is not the end of suffering, it is the beginning of sovereignty. It is not a fantasy of invincibility. You will still feel grief, loss, anger, sadness, but you will never again mistake them for defeat. You will never again build your house inside someone else's approval. You will never again hand your peace to the trembling hands of the crowd. You are already becoming untouchable, not because you are harder, colder, or more distant, but because you are awake. Awake to yourself. Awake to the hidden currents that once dragged you under. Awake to the fact that no one, no matter how cruel or careless, has the right to define your worth. And now, I ask you for something more powerful than a promise. If something inside you woke up during this journey, if you feel even a small flicker of this awakening within you, leave your mark here. Write in the comments, "I'm becoming whole," not for applause, not for approval, but as a sacred commitment to yourself and to those who still struggle to find their way out of the illusions. And do not stop here. The next video will take you even deeper into the hidden forces that still try to manipulate your emotions, your choices, your destiny. If you are ready to master not just your pain, but your entire existence, you cannot miss it. See you there.